Resident Evil. Let's start this video with a metaphor that my longtime viewers should be able to understand. Back in 2020, when I started out my channel, one of my earliest videos was an essay on DC Comics' Flashpoint comic being only the latter half of a larger story that made the adaptations feel incomplete without the 2009's Flash Rebirth miniseries. A year later in 2021, after I got DaVinci Resolve as a better video editor, I remade that video in a somewhat better quality with mostly revised script and background music. And then 2 years later in 2023, when the Flash movie loosely adapting the Flashpoint comic came out, I completely overhauled my essay to format it like my comic to adaptation comparison reviews and made a third video on Flashpoint in comparing it to all three adaptations made out of it in animation, television, and that then recent movie. The metaphor I'm trying to make here is that the first video I made in 2020 represents Resident Evil 1 from 1996 on PlayStation 1. The second video represents Resident Evil 1 Remake from 2002 on GameCube, and the final third video represents a hypothetical other remake that Capcom could make for Resident Evil 1. I finally decided to push myself to play Resident Evil 1 Remake with witnesses in my stream chat, and managed to finish it as both Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine to properly have that point of view to share my thoughts about the game that revolutionized survival horror as a genre. Resident Evil 1's premise, for those of you unaware, is basically a mansion-sized escape room challenge with zombies and other monsters, like rabid zombie dogs that keep you from leaving the way you came in. The experience is divided to similar but different but still the same campaigns, played as either Chris Redfield as hard mode or Jill Valentine as the easier mode, or that is how I assume it was intended for the original 1996 version. In my case, I played the game first as Chris with some struggles and actually needed to start my playthrough from the beginning at one point, while playing the game as Jill made it somewhat easier by remembering where and what I did during my Chris playthrough. How ironic that the male character had to go first so that the female character could have a secure passage. I had played Resident Evil before, up to some points, so I was still able to play as Chris Redfield through the opening parts of the game after the first zombie encounter, where Chris is left alone to survive in the mansion.
There are only 3 STARS members left now. Captain Wesker, Jill, and myself. We don't know where Barry is.
Oh, yeah. So, after picking up what I assume to be Jill's gun left behind after she was taken, getting familiar with the locked doors around the mansion, and making some amateur mistakes, I made Chris go back to the site of the first zombie encounter to pick up the videotape on Kenneth's body, and went past it to the west wing to enter the second floor corridor to pick up the emerald arrow needed to enter the tomb in the backyard of the mansion. There the game gave me the Book of Curses with the incentive to find 4 death masks along with the sword key, which led me to get into the study with the dog whistle needed for the next key, and these frames needed for the second floor map. I was unable to get the first floor map thanks to a mistake I made earlier, but I fixed that up later. At this point I made it to the first safe room to get the fuel canteen, but was never able to get the zombies to die on top of each other to burn more than one of them at the same time. After running back and forth randomly, I finally made it to the western balcony to use the dog whistle to summon the Cerberus dog with the imitation of the key on its collar, killed it eventually, and saw the first Crimson Head zombie when going to exchange the imitation of a key to the armor key. I used that key to go have an encounter with Forrest, an undead member of the STARS team, and then went to find Rebecca trying to keep Rickard alive.
You?
Chris Redfield, Alpha Team. We're here to rescue you. Richard, what the hell happened to you? Chris, this place... Get your team out of here. Demons everywhere.
Don't talk. He seems to have been bitten by a poisonous snake.
I understand that some veteran players have been annoyed with this line remaining unchanged from the 1996 game.
That is a field medic who doesn't know the difference between venomous and poisonous. Poison is a toxic substance you ingest. Venom is a toxic substance an animal injects into your bloodstream via a bite or a sting, which is what happened. You had 6 years to fix this translation issue and you still managed to get it wrong.
Anyway, a quick run to the western save room for the antidote, and Richard's life gets extended and Chris gets a radio. Rebecca is moved to look after Richard in the western safe room, where I leave them as I next move on to solve this wasp specimen and fishing lure puzzle on the other side of the mansion. Then I decided to run around the mansion trying to find any of the missing key items that are needed to find the death mask to get to the first boss fight. While doing that, I ended up reading the Keeper's diary and met its owner. I was able to find the first death mask in the Crow Gallery with some help from the chat, thank you Grimlock, and this music sheet from behind the cabinet is to where I met Rebecca and Richard. But at this point I knew I had made too many amateur mistakes resource-wise, and with the stress of how many Crimson Heads I had left waiting to come after me. So, I decided to start the game over from the beginning and retraced my steps up to this point as Chris without repeating any of my previously mentioned mistakes off screen. Which I rushed a little too much by going for a death mask I had previously not collected yet. But I did manage to get to that one in the western greenhouse with the chemical to kill this plant around the water fountain, which I then immediately took to the grave with the others I had put there already to save item space. For the last death mask, I then needed to get Rebecca to play Moonlight Sonata on a piano based on the music sheet, since Chris does not know how to play a piano.
That sounded like Moonlight Sonata.
Can you play?
Yeah, probably like Rebecca should know how to play a piano. Uusi se for the B-scenarios.
What's this?
3 likes. Thank you very much. So, while Rebecca was playing the piano, I went to the dining room to get this wooden emblem to switch it for the golden one next to this lore-enriching journal from George Trevor, the mansion's long-dead architect. After that, I leave Rebecca to fend for herself and go to use the gold emblem to get the shield key, which only opens the door into the room where Richard must have gotten bitten by the giant snake Yawn, guarding the final death mask. Got it. Bye-bye! I grab it and rush out of there to rather face off against the Crimson Head Elder in the grave, whom I had to fight twice by the way, because the Cerberus dogs faced later end up killing Chris off. And now I need to kill that Crimson Zombie again. Okay, another grenade into the mouth of the Crimson Head Elder, grab the stone metal object and get to the mansion grounds to hear Brad's radio message.
This is Brad. Come in, Stars Alpha Team. Come in. Does anybody hear me?
This is Chris.
This is Brad. Stars Alpha Team. Bravo Team. It doesn't matter. Respond. I repeat, this is
Brad, this is Chris. Brad? Damn. Thing's broken.
I dodged the dogs to find myself in a dead end needing a crank, so I need to go back and find my way to the back door leading to the forest area, and this puzzle that I can solve with the wind crest I got from the wasp specimen and fishing lure puzzle that wins me the magnum revolver. Going deeper into the forest, I get to the cabin where I discover the crank needed to open the way forward, and run into Lisa Trevor, whom I need to dodge to get back the way I came. Using the crank on the waterway drains the pool to let Chris proceed to the residence house, which is infested by giant spiders. Nope. After getting over that by reading the notes left lying around and collecting different room keys, I find my way to the aqua ring where Richard has somehow followed Chris to, and then he sacrifices his life so Chris won't become shark food. Although it is up to Chris to survive on his own when the big giant shark Neptune tries to stop him from draining the aqua ring, where the sharks are swimming and the keys to the next area are held on the lower level. Great. Well, I think I have seen this somewhere. Electric types smashes water types every time. Residence key. Here it is. Yes. Then, because Chris clearly didn't study chemistry more than the required courses in high school, he does not understand anything about the V-jolt and has to waste ammunition fighting the Plant 42 to get the helmet key.
Oh, you scared me. You okay?
Yeah, it's dead.
Chris
Richard. He's... gone. It's my fault. I should have watched out for him. Be strong, Rebecca.
After having comforted Rebecca about Richard's death, Chris runs into Captain Wesker, who tells him to go back to the mansion, where the new hunter enemies are now running around, but they go down rather easily as long as you can get a good aim at them with the shotgun. Next, I use the helmet key to enter this eagle room with lore-important documents that Chris canonically ignores, and get 2 tiger eye jewels, one of which is needed to get this good-ending important ammo disc. The other one is needed to open this puzzle box holding the emblem key, which is needed to enter a locked study. But before Chris gets any chance to look through it, he hears a scream and must realize that he never saw Rebecca carrying a gun. That was nice of you. Save Rebecca from a hunter.
Rebecca!
Chris!
You okay?
I didn't mean to get you worried.
We can't stay here any longer. We have to get to the others and find a way out of here. You with me?
Yes.
Then I'll go ahead. Until then, Rebecca, you're on your own. Stay cool and use your better judgment. Got it?
I can handle myself.
Good luck.
After having saved Rebecca, Chris goes back to the study to find a metal object that needs the steel part to match the one from the Crimson-Head Elder's grave, meaning that now Chris has to find the stone part to match with it. With the remaining clues, aka the helmet key, Chris goes to the library behind where he got the armor key and has to fight a boss fight against Yo the giant snake, who upon being defeated knocks out a book with a wolf medal inside. Okay, then Chris goes to the Eastern Gallery, which has this statue puzzle that is only annoying the first time you need to figure it out. Wow. After finally figuring it out, Chris finds another book with an eagle medal, and then jumps into a hole in the floor to find the grave of the mansion's architect, which also serves as the basement entrance. Going through it past the spiders and remaining zombies not taken out by the hunters, Chris finds the elevator leading to the last areas of the mansion that he has not searched yet, to find an elevator battery needed to enter the tunnels behind the mansion. In those tunnels, Chris finds Enrico, the leader of the Stars Bravo team, who accuses him of being a traitor before being killed off by someone other than Chris, who for some reason doesn't run after the shooter. Fighting more hunters, another giant spider, and 2 boulders that he is not old and strong enough to punch away, Chris runs into Lisa Trevor once again, as he raids her underground residence for the stone half of the object and reads her diary, before climbing his way out of the tunnels into Lisa's cabin. screen. Now that Chris has the two stone and metal objects, he can use them to open the crypt doors in the entrance hall of the mansion and take the tunnel through it to wherever it leads. But before that, Chris has to assist Captain Wesker in pushing these stone pillars over the edge to open this stone casket holding the remains of Lisa Trevor's mother, which causes her to jump down screaming for her mother. End to a poor girl's misery. Defeat Lisa Trevor using Chris. And so Chris goes on to find his way to the lab, where all the monsters he has fought so far were created, by a research team that Captain Wesker seemed to have hung out with at some point, along with more zombies and proto-novistadors, while he needs to power up the elevator to the lowest levels of the lab. At this point it was important to have killed and burned all the zombies on the way from here to here, because carrying a fuel cell from where it's refilled to where it needs to be installed to needs to be traversed at a walking speed without any sudden moves or it's game over. That didn't happen to me because I have seen enough other people's reviews on this game to know this to be the one part where I need to use tank controls. Then after collecting the other two MO discs in the lab and putting them onto the three consoles, it's possible to find Jill held captive in a cell for some reason.
Chris?
Jill,
Chris? Wesker's the...
I know. I can't open it. Just wait, I'll be back.
Okay.
Rebecca!
I saw you in the inner garden.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. No more following. Just stay with me, kid.
That's my plan, sir.
But before we get down that elevator to confront Captain Wesker as Chris and Rebecca, let's first go over how I went through these events leading up to this point as Jill Valentine.
3 STARS members left now.
Or never mind, let's not forget it. Let's just keep the game as it is.
We don't know where Chris is.
So, this time Chris is gone before Jill even gets to see a zombie that she needs Barry Burton to kill for her, and then manages to do what I already did as Chris before, remembering to go to get the Emerald Arrow to use it to get to the grave to get the Book of Curses with the sword key. That key is used to go to the east wing of the mansion to collect the chemicals in advance, and to use Jill's female privilege to have Barry to save her from getting the shotgun early, unlike how on Chris's campaign you would have needed to pick up this broken shotgun from the west wing to replace it in this trap room. Won't open. Won't open.
God, what did I do now? Wesker! Barry! Help!
Jill! You in there?
Barry? Get me out of here! The door's jammed!
Stand back! Grab my hand!
Barry!
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
After that, it's the same as before, with Jill getting the dog whistle to summon the dog with the imitation of a key to exchange it for the armor key, and then go use the chemical to kill the plant guarding the death mask in the greenhouse. Jill takes the first death mask to the grave before going to get the other one from the Crow Gallery and opening a shortcut from the backyard to the mansion. After then taking that death mask to the grave too, Jill goes to find Richard alone in the situation where Chris found him with Rebecca, and still needs to run back and forth to the western safe room for the antidote to his snakebite from Yawn. This time, however, Richard is left to rest alone in the hallway where the zombies luckily don't bother to walk in, while Jill has to go pick up the music sheet to know how to play Moonlight Sonata by herself to get the gold emblem, to get the key to go get the death mask in Yawn's room. Before that, Jill also goes and picks up the rocket launcher from Forrest's body before it rises up as a zombie like in Chris's campaign, and then goes to get the third death mask from John's attic room, where Richard comes to assist her by dying as a snake food, unlike how he ended up dying as shark food in Chris's campaign. This is how Jill also gets his combat shotgun. Then there is still the last remaining death mask I got off stream for Chris in the armor room, by pushing this and this suits of armor before pressing the button to get the box that holds the last death mask. Probably because this had all felt too easy, I decided to face off against the Crimson Head Elder after placing all the death masks to his grave with just a handgun, which went like this.
Should have probably brought a shotgun. That was close. That was way too close.
After getting the stone and metal object to go forward, I was then reminded more than once that the Cerberus dogs are more dangerous than the zombies in this game, before going to get the Magnum revolver from the graveyard and the waterway crank from Lisa Trevor's cabin. Returning back from there, I failed to headshot a zombie on Jill's way, and so set myself up to have a Crimson Head encounter when coming back this way later. By the time I reached the residence building, Jill had been established to be an arachnophobic who killed the spiders that Chris left alone, but was still innocent enough to believe Barry to be just talking to himself when caught talking about...
But it's not necessary to destroy stars.
Barry, I heard someone talking.
Oh, you heard. I think age is starting to take its toll. Talking to myself is becoming a bad habit.
Talking to yourself? You alright? What's gotten into you?
I'm getting you worried, aren't I? But don't, I'm alright. I guess this creepy mansion has gotten to my nerves. I think I'll go outside, get some fresh air for a change. Don't worry, I'm just going to get some fresh air. If I'm lucky, I'll get to waste some monsters along the way.
Since Richard had already been eaten up by Jon, he was not present at the Aqua Ring when Jill went through it to get the next needed keys to progress to the plant for the 2 boss fight, which Jill can actually skip by being smarter than Chris in chemistry to create the V-Jolt poison to wound it just enough that it still has the power to try doing something to Jill, until Barry shows up with a flamethrower and saves her again.
That was close. Thanks again.
Don't mention it. But what was that? What the hell's going on in this place?
After thanking Barry and getting the helmet key, Jill runs into Captain Wesker just like Chris did and is told to go back to the mansion, while also being warned about Barry acting...
Barry, you sounded a little flaky.
Here the hunters come into play again, and the only time they managed to get Jill killed was in the western L-shaped corridor, because the camera angle made the aiming at them impossible.
I saved at the previous safe room.
Just like Chris before her, Jill got the Tiger Eye jewels to get the ammo disc, and the puzzle box for the key to the study with the metal object, fought Jon again for the wolf medallion, pushed the statues to get the eagle medallion.
At least I know now what I need to do with this thing. Push, Jill, push. Okay, that sounded kind of double meaning-ish. Push, push.
And then made her way past George Trevor's gravestone to the basement to find the elevator battery to reach the tunnels. Just like Chris, Jill finds Enrico, who does not accuse her of being a traitor before being shot again, and after Jill has run away from the boulders as well as fought the Black Tiger, Barry catches up with her by the time she manages to get this elevator working. And then after having built trust by saving Jill 3 times in a row, Barry abandons Jill in the tunnels after she ran into Lisa Trevor down there. But the real question I have in my mind when trying to do what Chris did first is this.
I'm surprised how Push Jill, Push or Push Chris, Push didn't become a meme. Especially after there was that when Julia Voth got pregnant with her first child, some fans made a fan art of Jill and Chris showing that Jill was pregnant, and Julia Voth went along with it, joking that Chris got her pregnant.
After getting the broken flamethrower to keep this door open to get to Lisa Trevor's home cave for the stone ring to get the second stone metal object, Jill climbs her way out of Lisa's cabin and has to deal with that crimson head I left here earlier.
It was right here. And there, it's a crimson head. Defeat a crimson head. Yeah, I got that achievement.
Then it's time to use the two metal and stone objects to enter the underground crypt entrance to the lab, where instead of Wesker in Chris's campaign, Barry is there being suspicious and doesn't even try to explain himself as Lisa Trevor approaches for her boss encounter. Because I have played as Barry in Resident Evil Revelations 2 before, I know to have Jill trust him in this situation by giving him his gun back to keep Lisa busy while Jill pushes the chained pillars, and make Lisa jump into the depths below. Now Barry, do you have anything to say for yourself?
I don't believe that thing's really dead. Leave this place up to me. Go on ahead.
Okay.
Let's get back to that later, because now Jill has to do the same things Chris did in entering the lab, including watching that videotape Kenneth had on himself to see how he died at the beginning of the game. Then she collects the ammo discs, installs them, carries the fuel cell after having permanently killed all the zombies to power the elevator, and finds Chris where he found her in his campaign.
Jill?
Chris! You're alive!
Of course I'm alive. Jill, there's something big going down, and I don't think we're part of the equation.
I have to get you out of here. Ugh, it won't open. Wait, I'll be back to get you out.
Okay. No sightseeing, though.
Jill!
Barry,
You could have at least waited up for me, you know?
let's go.
Okay, and now let's talk about the same two good canon endings that Resident Evil 1 Remake has with both Jill and Chris. Going back to my first playthrough, when Chris and Rebecca go down the elevator, they find Captain Wesker, who is revealed to be the traitor that Enrico accused Chris being, all the while working on destroying the evidence of this entire incident and of the T-virus created by his team working for Umbrella.
Rebecca! Don't move.
Then Wesker shoots Rebecca and starts showing Chris the Tyrant, which the T-virus was trying to create and made the zombies and other monsters as byproduct failures. As Wesker tries to hype it up to Chris, it then breaks out from its holding pod and skewers Wesker, prompting Chris to fight it. On Jill's side of the story, this cutscene has Wesker order Barry under coercion of blackmail threatening his family to keep Jill at gunpoint, while delivering to her a similar speech as with Chris about the Tyrant.
Barry!
Barry then decides to defy his blackmailed orders and shoots Wesker while his back is turned facing the Tyrant, but not fatally enough to keep Wesker from manually releasing the Tyrant from its holding pod while Barry apologizes to Jill. The Tyrant still attacks Wesker, but not as fatally as on Chris's story by bitch-slapping him, and then Barry, which leads to Jill having to fight it like Chris.
Ow. Well, that was... ouch. 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5. It took 5 magnum shots. Yeah, it just takes 5.
On Chris's playthrough, Rebecca survived thanks to having worn a bulletproof vest, while Barry on Jill's story was just slapped, so that wasn't enough to kill him. Wesker is left dead in the lab in Chris's story, but manages to escape on Jill's while she helps Barry up. On both versions, Wesker is carrying a research note from William Birkin, foreshadowing the G-virus in Resident Evil 2, and mentions Alexia Ashford, who should be frozen in cryostatic state in the Antarctica during these events. Wesker, then escaping on Jill's playthrough, activates the self-destruct sequence to destroy all the evidence against his employers at Umbrella, while Rebecca volunteers to activate it to prevent any of the monsters from escaping on Chris's playthrough. Jill then goes to free Chris from his holding cell on her playthrough, while Chris does the same for her on his. But the timer for the self-destruct sequence doesn't start until Chris and Jill are both going up the elevator to the helicopter pad to signal Brad to come pick them up. On Chris's campaign, Jill and Rebecca hold the line for him going up the elevator, while Chris and Barry do that on Jill's while she goes up the elevator on hers. And they both have to fight the Tyrant again after having signaled Brad where to land. 1 or 2 rocket launcher shots later, they are all riding away from the exploding mansion on Brad's helicopter. And I have so many questions about what just happened. First of all, which one of these events is the canonical one that the sequels and their remakes are following? The game's original cover from 2002 has Jill fighting a zombie, so her version might be it. But would that imply that Rebecca was never at the mansion and her appearances in the CGI movies are not canon? Then there is Wesker surviving to resurface in Code Veronica with powers and having a grudge against Chris, who during Jill's canonical story campaign would have been sitting in a holding cell doing nothing. Then there is how did Chris even end up in there from having been last seen running away from the Cerberus dogs, and didn't make it into the mansion in Jill's playthrough. And following my experience with those dogs in this game, they would not have left him alive or intact for Wesker to have knocked him out before entering the mansion with Jill and Barry, to then move him into the holding cell in the lab while they went to investigate Kenneth's death. It would be logistically more believable that Wesker knocked Jill out when Chris went to look at Kenneth being eaten by a zombie, and then rushed carrying her unconscious body to the lab before Chris got back to them. Then there is how Rickard is supposed to have died. Again, it would be logistically more believable for him to survive after being given the antidote to John's snakebite poison, by having Chris and Rebecca move him to the western safe room to rest and get his strength back so he could eventually follow Chris to be eaten by Neptune in Aquaring. Jill leaving him to lay alone in the corridor while she ran back and forth past him to get the shield key by playing the piano on the other side of the mansion on the other hand, would have left him exposed to the zombies to come across him and do to him what they did to Kenneth in his sleep, before he could have gone to be eaten by John to protect Jill. It so sounds more like Chris's playthrough to be more consistent to be canon, but then there is how Resident Evil 3 has Jill as the protagonist, and her backstory in that game, or its remake, cannot be just that she was forced to sit in a holding cell while Chris did everything that she could have done. To go back to that allegory I started this video on, the most obvious reason to remake Resident Evil 1 for a third time would be more for the narrative canon reasons, and to set the record straight on what exactly happened during it, by doing a scenario where both Chris and Jill star as the main characters together, not by being separated into alternative what-if scenarios. Gameplay-wise, it still works well, and if I was able to adapt to the fixed camera angles, then so can anyone else. Although if Resident Evil Requiem can toggle between the first and third person modes, then with those story fix-ups, the third remake could also include having first and third person modes as well. The modern games and the latest remakes could also add more replay value by having an optional fixed camera angle for the old school fans. And that is what I felt like I had to say about Resident Evil 1's remake after having played it. I tried to get another Resident Evil video done about those two remakes happening at the same time before RE9 comes out, so while I work on that one and some other videos, remember to like this video, comment about if you agree or disagree with what I said, along with if you have shared my experiences playing the game, share the video for more people to see, and subscribe for those following videos I said I'm working on next. Also ding the bell to be alerted for the 3 times a week I do gaming streams for a chance to chat with me, and may your heart be your guiding key.